Good evening and welcome to the South County Fire Board of Commissioners regular board meeting for April 15, 2025. I'll go ahead and call us to order. Ask everybody to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, commissioners, board members, you have in front of you the draft agenda. Is there anything else? Chief, I don't believe there's anything else the chief had for the agenda. Anything else for the agenda? Anything else? If not, I'll move that we adopt the agenda as presented. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Chan. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. That moves us forward then in the agenda to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. And it includes the claims vouchers of today's date totaling $1,422,503.30. I'll move the adoption of the consent agenda items, those claims vouchers. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Wittes. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda, the claims vouchers. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. That moves us forward in the agenda to item number 5, which is approval of the meeting minutes. And this evening we have in 5A, the meeting minutes for April 1, 2025, the regular meeting, and the April 8, 2025 work session. I'll move the adoption of those 2 sets of meeting minutes. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Fernhoff. It's been moved and seconded to adopt those 2 sets of meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That moves us forward in the agenda. Then to item number 6, which is public comment. We'll start first in the room and then move to the Zoom platform. Starting first in the room, is there any request for public comment for the board, to the board this evening? Any request for public comment? If not, let me turn it over to Ms. Blankenship to ask if there's any request on our Zoom platform for public comment.
There are none.
Ms. Blankenship, thank you. I'll come back to the room one last time. Any request here in the room for public comment? Not seeing any, thank you. We will move forward then in the agenda to item number 7, which is the fire chief's report. Good evening, Chief Eastman.
Good morning, Chair Kenny, commissioners, liaisons, and staff and public. I'm going to have Sean's going to give a quick brief, and then I'll follow up, and we'll be short tonight.
Good evening. I just want to make the board, just for your situational awareness, we're continuing to look at paramedic school and the challenges associated with that. I think everybody knows we've tried really hard to go to Harborview. It just year after year, we can't go. We made a huge lift, and we've been sending people over to Ellensburg for 8 months. And that's hard on some of our younger families here. People with young kids aren't really, it's hard for them just to move over to Ellensburg for half to 3/4 of the year. And the programs, they're working hard, but they're going through changes. So I just want the board to be aware we're looking at a new program. It's a program in Boston where it would allow people, you go back and do like 2-week residencies rather than going over for 6 to 9 months. And it's a different program, but it's produced some really good medics. And it also would allow them probably to be more here at work than covering their shifts. So we're just looking at, I guess, another opportunity, because right now we have the most people that have tested to go to medic school, which is 6. And the way we need medics, we'd like to figure out a way to send all of them. And this might be a way in where we start off sending maybe 3 to Central. And then in January, when this class starts, maybe sending another 3 to the Boston program. So I just wanted you to know yeah.
All the way to East Coast?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just curious. I'm sorry, I let you
No.
finish. And I'm just curious.
You microphone.
No, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just thought I heard it wrong. But isn't a paramedic, you need a lot of practice and, you know, people, instructor right there. But is it online? I guess I'm old, so I never really take online classes. I thought that remote, that,
They'll go be,
that distance, that kind of creates some problem.
no, there, I mean, obviously there's a lot of the knowledge work, but all the skills work you speak to, that's what I mean, they would go back and do 1 and 2 week residencies at a time. And they would do that. And then they also have contracts with our local hospitals. And then they'd also do the internships here at South County Fire.
So the 2 weeks is intense, being everybody, so who they are catered to? The training, do they just Boston around the people or all over?
People
the
are
country?
yeah, no, there's lots of agencies from all over the country going there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, so how many weeks total at Boston? That's,
I don't know all the specifics. This was more just giving you guys awareness. I don't know all the particulars of the school. That's where Chief Hughes and Chief Keen know all those specifics. But what they said is they'll go back for like 1 and 2 week sessions. But the majority is actually they are here doing online courses, going to our hospitals and staying with us for
Okay.
their internships.
so we don't know, it might be like a total of a month or month and a half of time in Boston.
I don't know all the
Okay,
specifics.
All right.
No,
But
but I can get those for you.
Well, it's okay.
if they go to hospital, would they be supervised by people in the hospital or just kind of on their own? Is it part of the Boston program? Or,
It'd be just like the programs here, you know, whichever part of the hospital you'd be supervised by the specialist in that area. If you're intubating, anesthesiologist, if you're in OB, it'd probably be OB nurses.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, Commissioner Fernhoff.
What institution is this affiliated with?
I don't know that actually. I don't know.
So
that
as a
specific.
sales pitch, I'm just going to recommend if you say it's Harvard School of Medicine, it's kind of, rolls off the tongue.
It's not.
Oh, darn. Okay.
funding now.
Just throwing that out.
Harvard's gonna get cut. $2 billion.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Any other questions?
No, I'm really looking for a different thing. I'm not trying to pour any cold water over it.
No, and I knew you, I knew the board would have some more specifics and I knew I wouldn't have them by tonight, but I did want to this was more just kind of an awareness thing.
Okay.
You know, it probably won't be till January, but I wanted the board to be aware up front that we are looking at other options to keep this going.
You know, I've been here for 20 years. This has been like continuously.
Yep. This,
Continuously. problem.
yeah, this was an awareness thing. If
Yeah,
you-
it is continuous, 20 years, we still haven't solved that problem. There's something wrong with our system here.
Yeah, as
I mean, you
I've,
try as hard as you can.
I've spoke to the board before. It's a worldwide problem and I think it will continue.
Okay.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Lawrence.
they do go back there, make sure we give them special driver training, Boston style. I've spent a lot of time there.
Okay,
They're crazy.
thanks. Yeah. Yeah, this is awareness. If the board wanted a more detailed preservation or presentation, I'm happy to do that, but this was more just awareness of shifting schools and opportunities.
Yeah, it'll come. As they continue to look, one of the challenges we ever face is there's just not enough slots for as we promote, and we're promoting a lot of the existing captains or paramedics we have. And there's still a need for paramedics on the line, and they're not necessarily easy just to go hire from the street. And so as they continue, if this gets traction, and I'm sure this isn't the only program they're looking on, rest assured, we'll come back and bring the proposals back. I'm sure, you know, Chief Maxwell and the rest of his team. We just want to let you know, Harborview, I was on a meeting with Harborview, and I think they're talking about 2 positions outside King County for the next 3-4 years. That's not an option for us. And Central becomes the challenges that Sean has told you about. And the problem is we need more than twosies and threesies to make up for some of the folks that are promoting and the retirements we have coming. Some of our most senior medics, some of our captains and some of our medics are going to retire. They're my generation or era of firefighters in the organization, and they're leaving. And so we need to make sure we have a pipeline that we can get folks into to make sure we can staff appropriately and provide the service that the citizens expect. So expect more from this, because I will tell you, Boston program, but there's probably 3 others that they're going to look at, because I think those programs are getting a little bit more flexible and a little bit outside the box to help solve the problem too, if they have programs that are producing good providers. So
Yeah.
more to come on that.
Once we know, we'll be happy to share more details. We just did not want to, in a few months, have the board say, I heard we're switching paramedic schools. So it's just keeping you informed.
So the only other thing I have is myself and Shawnee Guzman met with Clint Cohan, who's the admin bureau chief for the sheriff's office, specific to the fireworks conversation as a follow-up to the meeting last week. And so Clint was going to go back to the sheriff and the ops bureau chief to make sure that they were still comfortable with everything that we've done in the past. What I want the board to know is we talked about ticketing and enforcement and all those other pieces. And the reality is I know we'd like to see enforcement. I'm just going to tell you that's probably not going to happen. There's all sorts of variables that go along with that. I will say if you give them a quota of a certain amount of tickets, they just won't do it. They can't do that. And obviously if you think that all the way through, it makes perfect sense. You can't say, okay, you're going to go work today and you're going to give 6 tickets for people that illegally shoot fireworks. That doesn't work. And the sheriff's office won't do that. So what I wanted to do is get a feel. I think I got a pretty good feel at the last meeting that the board was wanting to continue at least for this year. And staff concurs that we see if we can engage with the sheriff's office like we have in the past. Right now, 4th of July lands on a Friday. So we're thinking the weekend before. And again, Shawnee and Todd and some of those that are into this more will maybe fluctuate those dates. And I don't know if it's a Thursday, Friday or Friday, Saturday. But to work through an ILA with the sheriff's office, to get that done early so they can ask for folks to sign up early. One of the challenges we had last year is we had a condensed time frame. But I wanted to let the board know, I don't think we're going to get, the enforcement aspect that people want. I think the gentleman from the sheriff's office that signed up, he's a really good guy to go out and educate on what's going on and reinforce that education. I just don't think we're going to get citations written. And I just don't want to have that expectation for the board. If you think that's where we're going or what we want, I don't think we're going to get that from the sheriff if we continue. And so now that I know that information, before I have, Bureau Chief Cohan and Shawnee start working through the ILA, I wanted to make sure the board, there's a consensus that we still want to go down that path and we're still willing to fund a visual deterrent, I guess is what I will say, or the sheriff's office, at least to continue what we've done and see what the ban of sales has done and see what the actual use of fireworks are now in the banned area now that the sale has been banned too, and take that information in the fall and determine what our next steps are. And then I think we should probably continue to have strategies about how do we work with the council, the sheriff, and get, the next step, which is, how do we actually keep people from doing it? That now that it's banned and they still do it, what's the next place to go and the next step? And that probably, Commissioner Chan, is another 10-year endeavor, knowing just the challenges that go along with enforcement citations. And I look at Commissioner Kenny because I know he understands this topic well. I don't speak it very well. I just know. I know Clint Cohan really well. I spent a lot of time with him up at DEM during the pandemic. He was my counterpart from the sheriff's office there. And we had a pretty frank conversation and he was forthright. So with that, I just want to make sure before we go and expend a lot of work on something that maybe the board doesn't want to do, I still want to make sure that there's consensus from the board to still move forward with what we did last year with the additional information I just provided.
Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is not really to take it, I think publicity they're looking for. Maybe another, I'm thinking on that, maybe you can get a reporter to ride along, right? And just writing an article, that they were trying education. So somehow when you have newspaper addressing that, and then I give you a warning, especially you're thinking about 1 week before the weekend, right? So maybe that's when you go around to do education. Maybe a reporter, maybe we can write it even ourselves. I think that would good, put somewhere in the newspaper, expect local newspaper that, that would just, to me, that's just the same effect as getting a ticket.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, well, I kind of got an idea of the personalities that do fireworks. I don't think they read newspapers, truly. And I'm not for spending any money if there's no results. Maybe not writing citations because as Paula pointed out last week, you got to catch them in the act, but that these guys will be cruising around and going to places where the fireworks going off because you can see them pretty much, and camp out there and say, well, hey, the loudspeaker, fireworks is a illegal act. And if you're going to go do it here now, right now, you're going to be fined. Something like that, something that there's some potential of consequences for the flagrant people that are going to do it right in front of the sheriff. Right? They'll get a fine. So got to be some results. Otherwise, why bother spending the money?
I guess I'll reiterate. I don't know. I think you'll get him to talk to him, give him warning. Those pieces. We have had multiple contacts during the 4th. I mean, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I just don't know. If you're going to get an actual citation drafted. That's all. I just want to make that to the board and make that go into it knowing that there will be contacts and they'll do that part. They did that in the years past and they did that last year. It's just that I don't, if there's an expectation of citations, I don't know if we're going to get it.
Okay, but that they are not just cruising around with their, sucking their thumb, but they're actually going there. There's people going off. Obviously, there was smoke and they didn't catch the person in the act, but they're, he warns them, he kind of hangs around a little bit, then goes away, then comes back when they're not looking and firing off and catch somebody and give them a bloody fine. That they're going to do it, that they care. They're just getting an overtime check. I mean, well, they got to want some results here that people that really do want to, it's a challenge to them that write some fines if they could. Not like, oh, we can't do it. Fines are tough. Results. Otherwise, no.
Commissioner Fernhoff.
Thank you for the update, Chief. Can you give me an idea in the past, how many deputies does our contribution result in as far as overtime? I mean, is it 1, 2, 3?
We've had as many as 4.
Okay.
I know the last year was slim. I know we had 1 deputy. We didn't have anybody on the 4th. If I remember correctly, I want to say that he had 34 contacts and did a bunch of stuff, and the officer went to the known areas for us, and did that work. And I want to say I think it was 8 hours. I'd need to go get all that. Shawnery has that off the top of her head. I don't. So it's not like they didn't do anything. They did. And the gentleman that did it from the sheriff's office, when I talked to Chief Cohan, he's the guy to go do it. Cause he does that well. And he's not the guy that just sits in his car. So,
Sure, I'm sure he did a great job. Boiling this down to there's a desire from the fire chief of a regional fire authority who has a problem with the discharge of illegal fireworks within his jurisdiction, who has asked the sheriff for assistance. And the response is either staffing might be an issue, writing a citation might be an issue. So setting expectations for the public, we have the will and we have the desire to see these kinds of activities mitigated. But the resources that we're currently seeking, because we've sought them before, meaning the sheriff's department, because that's a good portion, but not the entirety of our jurisdiction. Have we talked about any kind of partnerships with our city law enforcement agencies to form any kind of task force that could be leveraged in a way that would be different from what we've done in the past?
Not that I'm aware of. I know each individual city has their own, because they've had fireworks banned for a long time. And so I know the city departments, I don't know exactly what they do. I haven't had conversations with them. I know Edmonds is very active in keeping the firework discharge down. I don't know as much about Malt Lake Terrace. I don't know as much about Mill Creek. We've not had conversations about a task force. And I think the individual cities have different priorities when it comes to that. And depending on those city priorities is where they put those things within what law enforcement is going to do at the time and deals with it.
I suppose in my view on this, if we're hiring for extra duty, an officer, they're then divorced for that period of time while they're on our clock from responding to 911 calls and other priorities the city has. They become ours as just like a subcontractor. Is that correct? And so whatever our scope of work is that we say, hey, we want you to go out and do this, whether they're standing at a construction site, whether they're cruising around in a patrol car, something along those lines. So that's where my mind goes. If I can hire extra officers from different jurisdictions, form them up in a capability that ends up in a result of mitigating the behavior of folks that are necessarily, willful and want to do it all the time. That's just an idea, it's a thought, and that's just where my thought process goes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I guess it's and again, I'm not an expert this and all, but it's the officer's one component. And then there's a whole nother part of that system that, you could get the sheriff's office say, yep, we're in. But there's other things at play, through the system that again, everybody's got work, everybody's got more work they could do, and they all prioritize where these things lie. So I'm being very simplistic. It's multifaceted. I don't totally understand it. The prosecuting attorney has, the PA's office has a role to play. The courts have a role to play. And so, all those things have to become aligned together at the end of the day. And I'm just gonna be quite frank, we're not there yet.
Well, actually, I've got Commissioner Rowland and then Liaison Switcher. Commissioner Rowland?
Well, I'll revisit my suggestion from last week, which is I think if at the end of the day, what we're going to accomplish is public education, we have the staff and we have the capability to do that in-house, even if that means spending or doing overtime or something like that for those that might be interested in participating. I think it'd be better received by the community than the police. Number one, number two, if the police aren't actually going to, enforce the law, then really all they're doing is that education piece or that warning or letting people know. If I've had success, in the past, just walking down and talking to people and letting them know, and telling them, hey, I'm your fire commissioner in the area, and I want to let you know that this is not okay, and that if the police get called, the fines are huge. So, and that seems to work. I think a lot of people just aren't paying attention to the small signs on the side of the road, or just not clued in. And even if they don't stop, again, if we're going to be spending money to send police out there to talk to people, I think we should do that in house. I think it just makes more sense. We'll be able to probably put more boots on the ground for the same amount of money, and I think it could be successful.
Liaison Switcher.
It's okay. You didn't want me to talk? What? You know better than that. So in my day job, where I work with police officers who have been having to try and enforce this for years, I can tell you that police departments spend a lot of time going on wild goose chases, because while you might think you know where those fireworks are coming from, unless one of their neighbors actually calls in and turns them in, you can drive all around and they're going to see you before you see them. And they're all going to go choo and not be standing out in the middle of the street lighting fireworks when they drive by. Because one of the things that they can do is if they catch you out there and you're not in the act of lighting them, but they can see your fireworks out in the open, they can confiscate your fireworks. There goes all that money away in the back trunk of a police car. We also contracted with the county and they were overtime shifts. Should a higher priority call come in, even though they were on our dime, they went to that high priority call that was within a certain distance of our city. It's just how policing works. It doesn't matter. Even our own people who are in our city, supposed to be taking care of our stuff. If something really big happens in Mount Lake Terrace and they get called to go, they go. It doesn't matter. So even though they may be on your dime, the level of severity of the call that comes in will dictate where they are and what they're doing. They may come back and do what you ask them to do afterwards, but they can get called off. So I think that your idea of putting something in the newspaper, I wouldn't just put it in like the paper of record, the Herald. I would go out to MLT News, the Edmonds Beacon, Mukilteo, all the little ones for all the different communities. Christy's really great at, coming up with good things to say. So I'm sure she could put something together ahead of time. And yeah, I think that proactively educating people will be a benefit. It'd be great to have police presence out there that would make a huge difference. But I mean, at least for us, we saw a huge decrease in the use of fireworks once we banned them. And I think with the sale not happening, you're going to see a decrease. You're still going to have some people do it because some people are just apt to do it. That's just their nature. I don't think throwing the money at it would hurt, but at the same time, you have to be realistic about what you're going to get from that.
Commissioner Lawrence.
So we're still in the chief's report, right? It's gonna be a long night. Yeah, I think I'd rather spend the same amount of money on a bazillion big signs in the areas we know where because I guarantee you, the people that are going to do fireworks now, they definitely don't read newspapers after years of being banned, right? So signs everywhere, especially in known locations that we have got pretty good idea where the fireworks people are. I know in my neighborhood where they're at. So some big signs, spend the same amount of money. How much was it? $30,000 the last time?
That was with authorized. We've never, I don't think we've ever hit that dollar amount. It's usually between 8 and 14,000 total.
14,000, Christie. How many signs would that buy? About this big? A lot. Okay. And then pay someone to go put them out, or volunteers. So I volunteer to do at least 5. Okay.
Other comments? Other questions? Chief, where does that leave you?
So, well, it sounds like if we're not going to get enforcement, that we're now maybe becoming a little bit more cold with having to pay for the sheriff's office to come and do what they've done in previous years is kind of the temperature I took. But I guess I want to make sure I've read because I haven't heard from everybody, but I guess I want to make sure I'm reading the commissioners right.
Yeah, it's about 60 degrees.
I had you at 37, so, I think I mean, we had a very honest conversation with sheriff's office and I said I wanted to come back and have a conversation because I think, I think we all want to have the next component of that, which is the enforcement component. I will tell you, Paula brought up that Breyer will confiscate fireworks. I will tell you the sheriff's office will not. And so, because that adds a whole nother dynamic. And so, so that's kind of how I read it is that we're going to not do it this year, or at least that's my impression from the board. And we'll gear up. And I think then the conversation after, because I think we're too late to do things leading up to this 4th of July with the county council. I think if we want to talk about enforcing ban and doing some of that and with the sheriff's office, it's going to require some of the same conversations we've had with county council and those kind of things as it did to get fireworks banned in the first place and then get the sale banned. So that's how kind of I see things happening now. I don't think we're going to get exactly where we want to go with, and again, we're talking about, we're not sure what the ban of sales is going to influence on happens on the 4th. So we're kind of trying to predict the future, not knowing what it is. So that's kind of how I feel or how I got it. No. Chair Kennedy, did I read the board correctly?
I think probably so.
That's what I need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else in the chief's report?
No, that concludes my chief's report.
Any questions from the board for Chief Eastman on the chief's report? No? Okay, excellent. Thank you. That moves us forward in the agenda to item number 8, which is the union report. And I believe we have Matt Armstrong on the line with us. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners and staff. I only have 2 things today, and I'll start with this first one because it's, in my opinion, right now the most important. But I wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of you in the room from Local 1828 for your support, not only sort of personally for some of you, and then also for our peer support team and lending them to the fallen firefighter over in Wenatchee for Wenatchee Valley Fire. So I want to say thank you very much from Local 1828. We sincerely appreciate it. The only other thing I have tonight would be that Local 1828 has been out. We just wanted to touch on, let you guys know, we've been doorbelling. It's been very successful for us, I think, and we've been out waving signs for the upcoming Edmonds vote. Aside from that, the guys keep doing our jobs, and again, as usual, I'm honored to serve, and I appreciate you having me on tonight.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Lawrence.
No questions, just Matt. Appreciate you guys going out there and doing that. If it's a close election, then I'll attribute the success to you guys for sure, 100%. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Chan?
Do you want to share your schedule when you're going to do the sign waving and all that?
Well, we may not want to engage electioneering from the board. So I think if there's any interest in something like that, that needs to be a private conversation and not a board conversation. So. Thank you. Any other non-election questions? Okay. Thank you very much for the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us forward in the agenda to item number 9, which is unfinished business. And we start first with our organizational roadmap with Chief Maxwell.
Good evening again. Thank you, Board. The organizational roadmap has been a multi-presentation, multi-month journey, and we really appreciate everyone coming along with us on that. The goal was to inform and to really seek engagement and discussion and input from the board. So now as we move closer to the spring workshop, where we'd like to give you a culmination presentation with recommendations, this is a review and a solicitation for even more engagement. If we've missed anything, it might spur conversation. So that's the goal tonight. So the kind of, I guess you can call them threats or challenges. We've talked about, growth and call demand, the societal changes for what they call us for. The laws are changing. We talk about different leaves and stuff like that. Our employees are changing. Some of them don't want to work as much overtime, or some of them just have different work-life balances. And then, we have stations that need support, and then there's supply chain issues with getting apparatus. So, our world has changed a lot, and how do we move from a year-to-year plan to what are we doing for the next 5, 10, or 15 years? So we broke it up into resources. Commissioner Chan, you should like that term. Oh. That's weird. Okay. Can you guys see that? I guess I'm gonna have to do it outside of presentation mode. Can you see that all right? I can try again. Huh. Hang on just a second. Let me try and reshare it, see what the problem is. No, now it's not showing at all. Well, it's completely disappeared. No, I can see it on there. It's not, when I go to screen share, it's not showing as an option. All right, Commissioner Kennedy, do you want to go to the next item and I can try and troubleshoot this, or because it's just not allowing me to share it. Yeah. Try that. Yeah. All right, I sent it to you, Melissa. So while that's going to her, I'll just talk about, so I was talking about the resources. So the resource, I guess, domain, we're talking about the levies, the fire benefit charge and bonds, all susceptible to changes in the economy, the laws and public support. And we want the resources to align, with the current and future needs of the organization and the other pillars. Did you receive it, Melissa? Yeah, Lori, if you can make it work. It says I know, but like when I go to here and I go to screen share, there's no, there it is again. Oh, now it's there again. Okay. Try it again. When I do it as a slideshow, I lose the whole thing. Want me to try it again? So let's just. Yeah, this is fun. Okay, well, we're just going to do it outside of presentation mode.
That's fine.
So apologize for that. All right, so we've gone over threats and challenges, resources, now moving over to the administrative. We talked about having the right amount of chiefs, directors, management, support for logistics, our support facilities, training needs, and then admin support. And the areas there to concerning with are, do we have sufficient resources in administration? And do we have succession planning? We talk a lot about chiefs and ops, but we need succession planning across the entire organization. And then the third category is the capital facilities. We will review some of these in more detail, but we have new, we have replacement, we have renovation. How does that align with our response? Our administrative needs, like I talked about, having repair facilities, logistics facilities, and how is that properly aligned? With the ultimate goal of having a, response organization, that has readiness, reliability, and resilience. So quick review on the stations. The upper left, these are the stations that we are good to go. So station 12, 16, 18, 21. And then the yellow box, those are the ones slated for replacement in the capital facility plan, 13, 14, 22, 23, and 20. And then ones that need renovation or seismic upgrades, 11, 15, 17, and 19. And then infill or gap stations. We label them Manor Way, Alderwood Mall Parkway, the Heights, and Cascadian. Interesting when we talk about the NFPA formula, which is not a standard, it's a recommendation. We came up, our capital facility plans is exactly in line with the recommendation. So that was nice for that to line up that way. Sorry, gosh. And then other things. Headquarters, shops, apparatus storage, headquarters site, central stores, all of other properties to consider as well. Then we talked about, our maturation into a metro-sized department. And, the NFPA was the only benchmarking out there. There weren't a lot, but it's modeled off of, firefighters or one firefighter per 1,000. And then there's a sub breakdown on population size and then a further sub breakdown on the hour work week range. So where we land is obviously between the 250 to almost 500,000 people, and it's 1.56 firefighters per 1,000. Currently, we're at 1.09 firefighters, so we're about half firefighter, not sure how you get that, below. But then we're also looking at, having the right amount of volunteers, administrative support, IT, facilities, finance, having all the right support because we've done a lot of consolidations and mergers and changes and growth. And sometimes that gets left a little bit behind, but it's critical for supporting the frontline staff.
Stop for a second. Question from Commissioner Chan.
The the firefighter per 1,000, is that some kind of standard that nationwide, some way we can resource that?
No, it was a recommendation. If you remember, I think it was the second presentation, we talked about, maturing into a metro-sized department and what should the staffing be as we go vertical, density and those things. And the only place we could find was a study done by NFPA. And it's just it's just a broad recommendation, but it was the one we were able to find out there to help do some benchmarking and see where are we at? How do we compare?
I don't know, have you watched the opposition? They bring out all the statistics about other city do, what, have you ever seen any of those?
Okay.
So a lot of the opposition doesn't have any factual basis on a study. They're making an inference based upon what they feel or think they observe in other cities or other jurisdictions. And I'm not sure they understand what they're seeing or reading from those other cities as well. This stuff is based upon a methodology study, an actual study of what's going on inside the fire service around the country. So the populations per thousand are actual numbers taken that are currently being used in fire departments, where I wouldn't worry about the opposition because it's just not even close to being the same data points that you're getting here.
But who's the issue this, which organization?
So the I Chiefs, the International Association of Fire Chiefs,
Fire chief that,
and the NFPA sponsors that study.
so the white firefighter means also paramedic, is that equivalent to that
That is a combination of all.
combination? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, did they slice it, or did they factor in, did they give any information about how many volunteers, the ratio, is that anywhere here? Did we talk about that?
So these are based upon metro-sized departments. So you're looking at 350 paid people plus in these departments. And I believe the ratio is 15% of all departments. And out of that 15%, we're somewhere in the 7th percentile in the nation because we provide our EMS, paramedics, our fire base. This is all career performance, and you can also be a combination and have volunteers too. But you have to have at least 350 paid career personnel
Okay,
in.
that made it in. I'm just wondering, that number, the difference, 0.47. Were they counting their volunteers and we're counting our volunteers? It was just the paid people they were talking about?
Just the paid people.
Okay, all right. Probably said that and I missed it, sorry.
No, good questions. Appreciate it. That's what we want. We want this dialogue for anything we miss. So thank you. So getting into some of the more finer details for us, if you look at the, we talked about, historically we've had a staffing ratio. So for every one position, you have 4 shifts. So it'd be a 1 to 4, but with vacation, sick time, we used to have it when Commissioner Willis was a chief, it was I think he was using a 4.2. So 4.2 people for every position. We've moved up to 4.5 people, and that's where we're at. And we're actually pretty close to that NFPA recommendation. We're in the zone at 1.11, but we're not keeping up. And so in the future, and what you will see at the spring workshop will be a more robust plan on how do we, and it's not saying we get there tomorrow, but how do we move to maybe a 1.35, which is still below the 1.56 recommendation, but it also aligns with a 5.5 factor for every one position. And then we talked about some of the other issues, really getting the mindset of a systems approach. And we've talked about that a lot lately with everything else going on. Dedicated versus cross staff, the benefits or the flexibility either way there. Peak activity deployment, how many we have, how we use them. We talked about like as we build stations, we don't have enough beds for everybody. So there could be creative ways. We don't want to build a station and have it empty. So you could take peak activity units and those staff that are experienced, roll them in. We had nowhere to put them because we didn't have beds for them, roll them in, and you get the fire station staffed up quicker, and then you put the peak activity. So how can we creatively use this to make, we don't want to build an empty fire station, have it, but how can we creatively and flexibly use our staffing? And then talking about where we locate and how we staff our specialty, like hazmat, community paramedics, technical rescue. And then later on, and this is probably a little bit further down the future, is as we go vertical, our dual houses for our high-rise response, and that being a dedicated, fully staffed engine with a dedicated, fully staffed ladder in the same house for that high-rise response. So the chief assigned, Chief Taylor, myself, Chief Anderson, we have been with GIS Wheeler and our data analyst, Jen Party. We have been modeling, I think, for 2 years now, and we will bring you a more robust model of how do we start to move forward in a stepwise fashion to how we cover the RFA, and how do we have enough transport capability? How do we have redundancy in BLS? How do we make sure we get ALS there in time? How do we distribute ladders? So we'll be coming with a comprehensive but also stepwise plan, and it goes back to those vertical pillars I started with, aligning all the different resources, human resources, financial resources. When are the trucks going to arrive? When will the stations be built? And have an alignment across all the verticals. And so finally, that leads me to where we will come on June 3rd. And that's where we start to do the horizontals. As you can see, we'll start off where we are, Commissioner Furnoff will like that, where we are, where we were, where we are, and where we're going. We'll start off where we were. We've shown a lot as to where we were, but we'll start off with the baseline of the 2025 there on the left. Where are we with our funding resources, capital and human? And then you can see it marches off to the right there. How can we do a stepwise fashion in 26, 27, 28 and beyond? And I guess the important take home, the fire chief and the assistant chiefs, and we all worked on this together, is this is expandable and contractible. It can speed up, it can slow down. It's what we're giving the board the information, we're giving the board the plan. And if this is what the board is interested in, wants to do, how small, how big, how fast, how slow. And so that's what we would like to bring you on June 3rd. And that's what we've been leading up to. And that is the end of my presentation.
Questions for Chief Maxwell? Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we always have to looking for what we're 10 years down the road. But I know I talked so many times about in the future. Now, I think you guys have shown to me before some unit from Canada that you can build and then can collapse and then move it to some, I thought that is a great idea, because the locations of the station is really depending on the population center, right? And especially in Linwood now. But I'm still thinking we should have something, I would like leasing rather than building it, right? We get 5 years, whatever contract, and then we evaluate. Then we don't have invest so much $20 million stuff in there. Then especially when you become, I think I may say when I get in trouble, if some of the unit is really medic only, right? You only to store the ambulance, right? So you don't really have that big fire truck garage thing. And those medic only can meet up with when there's a fire, they can meet up with them, right? So have you considered those options when you do the stations?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Commissioner Chan. Yeah, we've definitely received your input on and we need to be.
You mean listen to me? Oh my goodness! All right.
We need to be flexible on that, and that's good input. I think the stations that are the mobile stations, I guess you could say, those are super intriguing. There is one nuance. Those are often in cities that are out on the plains,
Right.
and they're going outward, and so the cities are still growing outward, where we're growing inward.
Right.
And so we, maybe I'll step out on a ledge, hopefully Chief can tell me if I'm wrong, but since we are going infill,
Yeah.
we're starting to get more density. So
Yeah.
those infill stations are likely not going to change as rapidly on the call centers.
Okay. When I saw that when you're 18, when will you think we'll be reached to 18? What year do you think we'll go to 18 station?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Chief Isatelo and Fire Chief met with our contractor for the capital facilities plan, and they are doing an update because we need to include Station 76 now. There could be some impacts from raw materials with tariffs and everything. So I believe you guys are going to be coming back with an update on the capital facilities plan, but you've seen that spreadsheet where it goes out 10, 15, 20 years.
In the current plan, it gets completed in 2037,
2037.
right? So
Okay.
so if you look at where we are now at 20, you're talking 12, 13 years. Again, there's all sorts of variables that play into that. And when you talk getting to 18, you're talking about 3 infill fire stations. And one of the caveats to go, we might be able to build them in that speed, but we have to make sure we can staff them. And so we're still from a staff's perspective, working through the current, and I'm going to say the current, the speed that we implement the capital cities plan, right? And so, like Jason said, it gets us through 2037 is when the last one gets built. But remember, we have 3 info fire stations. We need about 24 people minimum for each fire station, and the station at the Valley Village property is a bigger station that probably requires 30 or 40 to staff that station. So one of the things that go along with that, Commissioner Chan, is it's one thing to identify how we're going to get the capital built, but that's not the expensive part. The expensive part is staffing it for the next 30, 50 years, right? And so we're still working through how we can get the staffing we need. And we've talked about lots of staffing challenges that we have. One is we're currently at 4.5. We've had, or one of the first conversation we had is we need to get closer to 5.5. So there's a lift that goes along with that. And you're talking about those 3 info fire stations probably equates to about 100 firefighters. And so if you do that math, that's 160 people. And so how do we get from here to there, looking at the fiscal side of the house and all those other pieces, and how do we get there? And I think that will have as much impact on what that timeline looks like for the facilities plan is when can we get the appropriate staffing to staff those stations. So it's multifaceted. We still have a little bit of work to do. We hope to have a better answer for you come the 3rd to show you how we can get from today, 15 years down the road, what does that look like? How fast we actually think we can get the people staffed, which will then dovetail into, the revenue stream for the facility plan is going to be the same, just how fast we can get all the moving pieces of facilities plan done. So long-winded way of saying we're not quite there yet, but you'll have the answer.
Commissioner Lawrence, then Commissioner Fernhoff.
Let Mr. Fernhoff.
All right, Commissioner Fernhoff.
Thank you. How would this plan be modified if we saw Mukilteo and Everett come on board?
We just had that discussion this afternoon. Yeah, so we've done, like I said, we've done 2 years of modeling. And so the variable would be there. I mean, I don't want to speculate too much on what that would look like, but I could see Station 25 being a hub station. And then, how do we reach up into Station 24? How does that change our modeling for Station 23? We had a BLS engine there in the last modeling. Did we put medics up at Station 25? Because we just discussed that. Jason said it's an arm. It's this arm sticking up here. So yes, we have figured that into our plans.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yes, you brought up the cost. Once again, it's labor. And I've used the figure, heard the figure 90% is our budget's 90% labor.
78 to 80% labor.
78 to now, does that?
78, 80% labor.
Okay, I'll use 80%. Does that include our capital facilities? It doesn't. So, maybe, maybe sometime I could have a understanding of what would that, reduce the labor component to be? Because we really have to figure we're spending money on capital facilities. That should be in that figure. So I'm not careless with the facts when I talk to other people.
Yep.
I think that's what we're going to try and show on June 3rd is here's where we're at for 2025. Here's where we would be at, like with the cost of a station, an additional station, you know, well, it won't be 2026, but say it comes online in 2028, you know, how many people, what the cost and what the revenue needs would be, what the admin support. So we're going to try and give you a year by year play of stations, people, costs.
Right. But we've been building stations or doing stuff with stations, capital facilities for a while. We should kind of bake that into that concept of what overall costs are, this is labor, because we should grab a best guess figure for what we spend over a period of time for capital facilities, and then have a more factual number of what the costs are. Because we do tell people what our costs are, labor's 78 to 80%, but it's lower actually.
If you add the
Capital,
12
yeah.
years of, if we implement the
Yeah,
capital savings plan, we
yeah.
use that and
Yeah.
if you consider that cost of everything we're doing, it will lower that
But
significantly.
we're
as a
always,
result.
every fire department, right, is going to have capital facilities forever, for one way or just maintenance and.
Well,
re-
our
re-
general,
re-
so our general maintenance is into that, is
That's
into that.
maintenance is in that.
And
okay.
it's the capital that
Or
we've been talking about.
remodeling.
I
Yes.
mean,
New-
heavy
new
capital
construction.
where we're going to go find, and
Okay.
I'm going to describe it as different revenue stream. In other words, the capital we're talking about, infill fire stations, rebuilding fire stations that need to be tore down, rebuilt, remodel, get them up, seismic update and all that. That we're looking at an alternate funding mechanism for those not coming out of the general fund.
Yeah, but taxpayers still got to pay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
So-
it's outside, it's outside our operational cost.
right. So you'll have that figure next week for me.
We'll have that baked into the conversation we're going to have in the third. So we
Okay.
will be able to answer your
Yeah.
question on the third, Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, that is part of the plan.
Any other questions for Chief Maxwell on the organizational roadmap presentation? Any other questions? Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.
That moves us forward in the agenda to item 9B, which is the locution, I believe that's the locution station alerting contract with Chief Eastman.
Yep. And so we talked about this at the last meeting. I guess that was the work session last week. And it's phase 2. And what we're asking for is for the board to authorize the expenditure of phase 2 for the movement we're moving forward on with the locution upgrades to, and I want to say there's 4 additional stations. I just don't recall the numbers off the top of my head.
Are there any general questions or comments about the potential contract from the board members? Any general questions or comments? Because if not, I think we're ready for a motion. I will move that that the board award the contract to Skyline Communications for installation of locution prime alert station alerting system at stations 12, 18, 19, and 21 in an amount of approximately $159,968, including tax. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to do just that. And is there discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we will move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that was 9B on the agenda. That moves us forward to 9C, which is the SCEMS ILA discussion and potential action on a SCEMS ILA amendment update, I guess. Chief Eastman.
Do you want to say anything, Commissioner Farnoff, before we go? This is a amendment to the Snow 911 ILA that we currently have. The changes there, the red line was in your packet. And really what this will allow is the way the current ILA is drafted, it doesn't provide the opportunity for SCEMSA, so Snohomish County EMS agency that was just formed 1st of April, to be housed under in Snow 911 and the, have them hire the employees and do that kind of work on behalf of that office. And so they needed to amend the current ILA we have with them to allow for a third party that's not necessarily affiliate member, but affiliates participate in to allow Snow 911 to enter into an SLA service something agreement. I forget what the L is. And so we need that completed so the board of directors on the SCEMSA board can go and finish negotiating the SLA with Snow 911, get that approved, and then SCEMSA can actually be housed at the new facility at Snow 911 and we can move forward. So that's really the crux of the change. And there's a handful of places where they have, added a third party, but they have to be affiliated. I will say that there's a commissioner from another district that saw some inconsistencies in some terms where they had affiliate, non-partner, partner. I don't know where that's going to head. He wants to see the common terminology throughout the document. The intent of the document's the same. That's the intent of what's before you. 911 would like it completed by all agencies by the 15th of May. The board is not, we're not asking, we put it up there for discussion and potential action by the board. I think it's a very, I'm going to call it administrative change based on the work that we've done with county EMS and this is an amendment that needs to be done. That's what's before the board. It's available for the board to take action tonight if they choose, if the board would like to, ponder it for the next 2 weeks, and we can bring it up at the May 6th board meeting. And then it'll be on that meeting for the board to approve the addendum, which will then allow the rest of the work to continue of what we've done with SCEMS. So it's just an extension of SCEMS and administratively needs to be done.
Questions from the board members? Comments? Commissioner Wittes.
Just one. I was just wondering how our representative, you're good with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments on it? Liaison Swisher.
It was really helpful that I'd been here and heard all about it because I took that ILA amendment to my council last week. And yeah, they passed it and they said they were on board. So it was reviewed by our attorney too. So, I had her blessing as well. It was piece of cake.
Then I think we are ready for action on this item. So I'll move that we approve the amended and restated Snohomish County Regional Public Safety Communications Agency interlocal agreement presented this evening. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Wittes. It's been moved and seconded to approve the amended ILA. Is there discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you again.
All right, that moves us forward in the agenda then to item 10, which is new business. And this is item 10A, which is recognition of National Volunteer Week. And this is with Director Feely. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I am here to help recognize our wonderful volunteers who help make so much of what we do possible at South County Fire. National Volunteer Week is April 20th through the 26th. And so this is a resolution for the board to adopt in recognition of National Volunteer Week. So a little bit about the volunteers that we have here. Right now we have 45 volunteers at South County Fire, 23 Fire Corps members, and 22 volunteer firefighter support team members. And we are also proud to partner with the volunteers of Support 7 who have really been there for our community during some really critical times and very challenging times. So, we know a little bit of what our volunteers do, their main roles, and, supporting firefighters at emergency scenes and things like that. But, a lot of the work that not everybody sees is the support that they provide to our outreach team and doing, community events, open houses, fire camps, events like National Night Out. We're talking hundreds of hours of support that really make all of these things possible with our small staff. They participate in our CPR classes and help teach those. They help support our CERT programs. And our volunteers also make it possible for us to do things like smoke alarm installations. We offer that service for free, and those volunteers help make that possible. So we don't have to use staff hours to do all of those things. So we really appreciate our volunteers. And outside of this work that they do for us, they also act as advocates for fire and emergency services. They also learn life skills that they can use in the event of a disaster to help themselves or their neighbors and their family members with some of these critical things that they learn. So we would ask that the board adopt the resolution as presented to proclaim National Volunteer Week, April 20th through 26th.
Questions or comments from board members? Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, I really appreciate, I'm surprised that we bring out that kind of a number of volunteers. I want to expand that program. And also too, one thing that all the open house, they are the most energetic people in there. You didn't, they like to be there and they want to be there and they really kind of, I think this is also our outreach program to the community. Actually, in our education committee on the WFCA, the commissioner, they keep on talking about volunteer just for small guys. And then eventually, you don't need volunteer. I just correct them. They say, no, we love volunteer, and which is important to us. So my question to you is that should we have some kind of budget agenda to, I don't know, have food, whatever it is, to show our appreciation from the organization?
I think that could be a nice idea. I know we've had some events in the past where it's hard for them to make it to these kind of meetings and stuff like that. So maybe I'll work with Shawnery and we could come up with some ideas for us to show our appreciation.
Right, because look at the hours that have we used that, that's they save us. I don't know. I think we need to keep up the rah, rah, rah spirit for them.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Fernhoff.
Thank you, Christy, for the acknowledgement, and we'll definitely be excited about passing this and making it, part of the record. But I'm a little concerned that we didn't invite anyone either via Zoom or here in the room. As we're talking about volunteers, there's not really anybody that's participating with us this evening. Maybe in the future, if we do something like this, we can send at least a Zoom invitation out to the representatives of Support 7, the Volunteer Firefighter Support Unit, our Fire Corps members, because I'm afraid that we're doing something that is almost kind of in a vacuum, and we're not necessarily, it's not visible to them. If I asked one of them this evening if they knew that they were being recognized this week, I'm not sure that that would necessarily be meaningful, because as Commissioner Chan has pointed out, maybe we need something that's a little bit more celebratory than just passing the resolution and acknowledging the week, if that makes any sense. So if we have any ideas, a piñata, barbecue, everything is on the table.
Any other general questions or comments? Because I think we're ready for action. I'll move the adoption of Resolution 04152025-08, National Volunteer Week, April 20 through 26, 2025 proclamation. Is there a second? Second. It's been seconded by Commissioner Fernhoff. It's been moved and seconded to adopt that resolution. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, I just appreciate all the volunteer. Without them, we would not be where we are today.
Any other discussion on the motion? Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And I'd like to take a moment and just read into the record our just passed resolution. Whereas National Volunteer Week, April 20th through 26, 2025, established by a presidential proclamation in 1974, provides an opportunity to recognize the impact of volunteer service and the power of volunteers to tackle society's greatest challenges and build stronger communities. Whereas South County Fire has 23 Fire Corps members and 22 volunteer firefighter support members who serve our community. In addition to these volunteers, South County Fire is proud to partner with the Volunteers of Support 7, an organization that supports South Snohomish County fire agencies and police during moments of crisis. Whereas utilizing community support helps agencies increase their capacity and allows first responders to focus on operational duties, training, and emergencies. Volunteers play an essential role in the fire service by participating in public events, safety presentations, education, training, and during active fire scenes or other emergencies. Whereas engaging community members also allows our agency to increase the services we offer, such as enhanced fire and life safety education programs. In return, volunteers gain a greater understanding of fire and emergency services and become better prepared to handle their own emergencies or those of their neighbors. Volunteers also act as advocates for the fire and emergency services in the community. Therefore, be it resolved that the elected officials of South County Fire do hereby proclaim the week of April 20th through 26, 2025 National Volunteer Week as a perfect opportunity to say thank you to our volunteers and challenge all residents of South Snohomish County to look for ways to be active participants in their local community. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Veely. Okay, next up, we are moving forward then in the agenda to item number 11, which is community committee updates. Sorry, and that's starting with committee number 1, Capital Facilities Committee. Commissioner
Nothing to
Lawrence.
report.
Nothing to report. Excellent. Finance and Human Resources, Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, we'll be on this Thursday. We have 2 items in here. One is healthcare self-insurance financial plan. I think Chris, CFO have come up with some kind of a idea need to discuss about 40 minutes. And then this other one is internal control annual review. And also there is our CFO have come up some idea. So he's in charge of all this, not me. So Commissioner Lawrence, do you have any additional suggestions for the items?
Well, I'll have a few by Thursday, I'm sure.
Okay, Chris? Chris? Oh. Yeah, you have any additional idea, comments and for this Thursday meeting?
I don't. I think the agenda looks good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great. Moving forward then to our next committee, that's intergovernmental with Commissioner Wittes.
Thank you, Chair. We did have a Zoom meeting with Northwest Civic Circle. That was last Friday with Commissioner Kenny, myself, and Commissioner Rowland. That was going to be put out. Is that, do you know if that's out yet?
The recording?
Yeah.
You haven't read your email today.
No, I haven't. Sorry.
Evidently, the recording burned up.
Oh,
Oh,
So the recording is gone. It was so hot. It was.
well, interesting.
So it's, there is no
It
recording.
was your ending remarks, I bet.
Good.
It had to be.
Who knows?
And then for the next week, we would like to take a week off.
What?
Yeah.
A week off?
Well, the election's next
You've
week.
been
so,
busy.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
get a few days, but we've done hard work and thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you. Last committee is Snow 911. Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yes, good evening. You've already heard about the ISLA that we spoke of earlier. That will be going to the Snow 911 Board meeting this Thursday, and it'll be a topic of discussion from all the participating agencies. Also, commissioners, you should have been sent to you this information flyer about the project, the radio replacement project. That's roughly a $72 million effort that's taken place here in Snohomish County, and there will be a press conference coming up. Those details should have also been shared with you, and that'll be April 30th at 10 a.m. at the new Snow 911 headquarters located at 332 Southwest Everett Mall Way. That will not be the dedication of the building, but it will be the recognition of the new radio replacement project. As you know, we've gone from from an analog system to a new digital system. And so that kickoff date was supposed to be April 8th, but we've had a little snag. So I believe it's still the first week in May. Is that correct, Chief?
We haven't heard anything in addition, so there's no confirmation. So
Okay.
It'll be early May is what we assume.
Early May. We're getting some of the bugs worked out, but yeah. So the press conference though should be on again, April 30th. So if you can attend, this information flyer that was sent to you will give you the details of the program and all of the inner workings thereof. So subject to your questions, that concludes my committee report.
Any questions for Commissioner Fernhoff?
So April 30th, is that open to everybody to go? or-
Yes, that's correct. It's open to
And the
everybody.
time and all that you get us?
Yeah, you should
Okay,
have it in
thank you.
your inbox.
Great, thank you. That moves us forward to item number 12, which is commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments? Liaison Critcher.
I like this idea of South County Fire having a reputation of being like the best and the top. And one of the things that came to me when we were talking about the EMS training, is there a way that we could just have our own academy, our own school, our own accreditation? And I think it'd go a long way to emphasizing how great you guys are.
Well, that's very kind of you. We've actually done multiple years of research on bringing a paramedic school here. And one of the RCWs in the state require that it's accredited. And we worked through the accreditation, and then we realized the site has to be separately accredited. And it's better to partner with an academic institution that has a whole division that works on accreditation. It's a good idea. It's been explored. I worked on it quite intensely for about 2 years, and it almost take another mini division of our organization to do it.
Go ahead, Commissioner Fernhoff.
Just on that topic, we have for many, many years have had Harborview as the only level 1 trauma center. When are we going to see another level 1 trauma center?
I guess he would like to enjoy answering this.
It's an unbelievable, politically enticing conversation, and probably not anytime soon.
Just curious. Thank you, sir.
No, I'd be happy to fill you in offline.
That was an amazingly concise response there by Commissioner Chief Eastman.
I slept in my word.
Yes, very concise. Okay. Yeah. Other commissioner comments? Other commissioner comments? Any other commissioner comments? Okay, if not, then our last item of business is going to be an executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-144. It will involve issues related to collective bargaining. We're kind of in our break time now. Why don't we take at least a 7-minute break recess as we go into executive session until about 8:35, and then Chief, I'm thinking 20 minutes to start with.
That's a good start.
Well, we'll start with 20 minutes on the executive session, so that'll be called from 8:35 to 8:55. And we do not plan on taking action at the conclusion of executive session. No. And so with that, we will, without objection, we'll be in a brief recess, and then back to executive session at 8:35. Thank you.
You know, we can't even wait.
What's that?
The South County Fire regular meeting is called back to order at 9:55 p.m. And without objection, the meeting is adjourned.